Let's make an awesome naturalistic veiled chameleon tank.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be scaping a fully planted bioactive vivarium for a veiled chameleon. Veiled chameleons are stunning arboreal lizards from the Arabian Peninsula known for their beautiful colors and their ability to change those colors.
This is Tekno. He is a gorgeous veiled chameleon with a bit of a sassy attitude. His owner reached out to us wanting to get him a serious tank upgrade.
For this build, we're using an 18 by 18 by 36 ReptiZoo wire mesh and acrylic tank. These ReptiZoo come unassembled, which is convenient since it can ship flat and it's less expensive than an Exoterra, for example. It has wire mesh walls, which is perfect for a veiled chameleon since they need good air circulation. We snapped the tank together like a Lego according to the instructions, which was pretty easy. But there's a little converting we need to do before we can get started.
First, we blacked out the back wall of the tank using some peel and stick vinyl. This is going to make sure that no light shows through our awesome 3D background. We just spray down the tank with water, peel the vinyl like it's a sticker, and then apply it carefully using this little squeegee that comes with the vinyl to get out all the air bubbles. We trimmed it to fit the back perfectly and we were done. Easy peasy.
Because of the wire mesh walls, we needed some barriers to hold the substrate and moisture in at the bottom of the tank. So we used 2 pieces of glass that were each 18 inches long, 6 inches wide. We positioned these against the wire mesh walls to give us a solid barrier all the way around. Then silicone them into place with our black aquarium safe silicone.
You can find a link to all of our materials like the silicone and this tank in the description. And using our affiliate links on your own builds is a great way for you guys to support the channel.
We made sure to run a thick bead of silicone along all these new seams, then smoothing it out with our finger while wearing gloves because it can get pretty messy. We also applied silicone to every seam in the tank in general, just to make sure that the bottom was strong and waterproof. And with that, the tank is ready to go and it's time to start scaping.
We're building something called a runner feeder for this tank. This is basically a cup that you can dump feeder insects like crickets inside. And it gives the crickets some space to move around, which activates the chameleon's hunting instincts and provides some good enrichment. The walls of the cup are smooth so that crickets can't just climb out and run around the tank, but the chameleon can still come to the cup and feed on them. So to do this, we cut a plastic cup so it had a back wall and some partial side walls so the crickets couldn't walk out, and then we hot glued it in place. We did this at the very, very beginning so that we can hide it with our hardscape as we go on.
Now we can move on to the hardscape. These are the bones of our tank, so we want to make sure it looks great. We used mostly ghost wood for this build, which has some awesome shapes and textures. Chameleons need room to bask between 80 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, so we started by adding a basking spot in the upper left. We put the heat lamp up there and started experimenting with some stick placement.
This is going to be Tekno's throne, which is going to be his perfect basking spot from which he can survey his entire kingdom. As we tried different sticks out, we used a laser thermometer to measure the temperature on the stick at different spots to make sure that we got one that would allow him to self-regulate to whatever temperature he needs. We then worked our way down the tank, gluing our ghost wood branches in place. We're using a large number of crisscrossing branches, which might look a little bit chaotic, but we want to provide tons of pathways for Tekno to move up and down through his environment and explore. Chameleons are not like geckos. They can't just stick to the glass or vertical walls. They need lots of almost completely horizontal branches that are thin enough to wrap their little hands around.
We used a lot of sticks for this build, which can end up looking a bit jumbled and chaotic. So to make things feel more cohesive, we wanted to add some common points where the sticks are connecting to each other at the wall. So we got essentially 2 main branch-like structures, and they were both connected toward the back of the tank for maximum strength and structure. We're attaching these branches to the walls using our extra strong hot glue. Again, link down in the description. We glued some plant pots into the background as well. These are going to be filled with soil and allow for some plants to grow along the background. We also sprinkled in some cork flats around the feeder and the back wall just to help tie in the branch textures into the background.
Chameleons need a lot of air circulation, so aside from those connection points where the sticks are all attached together, the mesh walls of this tank are going to be completely open, which will allow air to flow straight through the tank. And here are all the sticks. It looks pretty good. Let's double check that temperature of the basking spot before we move on. Perfect. We've got anywhere from 80 to 95 degrees on those upper sticks.
Let's make a unique 3D background using carbonized cork.
Carbonized cork is compressed bits of cork that have a great natural texture and retain moisture really well for plant growth. We always recommend heat-treated cork because adhesive-sealed sheets are not safe for pets. It comes in these 2-inch thick panels. We break these into pieces and then crack the pieces open, leaving us with one uneven side and one flat side on each piece.
We can apply the silicone to the flat sides, then stick them directly onto our wall. We're using them to fill in the gaps between our sticks and to blend the sticks into the background. This part is super fun, kind of like building out a mosaic. Start with the biggest pieces, then move to smaller bits of cork to fill in any of those gaps.
We also use some to hide that plastic feeder cup and the plant pots in the background. If you want to see a super detailed breakdown on this tank building method with all of our tips and tricks, then check out our video on carbonized cork backgrounds.
Just having the cork done already makes the tank look really good. We're going to try something special here though to take it to the next level.
We're going to make some posable fake vines to give some additional places for the chameleon to walk and stand and to bring a unique jungle aesthetic to this vivarium. The core of these vines is going to be aquarium tubing, which is perfect because it's flexible, it's strong, it's non-toxic, and you can buy it in a ton of different diameters and sizes. We take that tubing and we coat it in a thick layer of black aquarium-safe silicone, then stick substrate all over it to that silicone. Some people use rope instead of tubing for this, but we've heard that rope can actually break down and decay over time, so we thought the aquarium tubing will work much better.
We took our vines and wrapped them around the ghost wood in these little spirals, moving up from branch to branch like the vines were growing upwards. We glued them in place with hot glue and silicone. A little tip, make sure that the vine is always curling the same way as it moves up the tank. If it spirals left around one branch, it should spiral left around others too. We hope that the vines will allow the chameleon to easily go up and down between these horizontal branches.
We finished up the runner feeder next by drilling some small holes in the bottom. Now, if the Automisters get any water inside that runner feeder cup, it's not going to accumulate and it'll just drain right out. Then we cut out a small piece of rectangular mesh. Crickets cannot climb on the smooth walls of the plastic cup, but they can climb on this mesh. So this is going to give them a track to move around and go up and down within the runner feeder so the chameleon has some movement and something to see for it to go eat. We put it right in the center so that they can't get out.
As you may be thinking, when we're gluing these pieces of hardscape to the mesh side walls, some of the silicone and hot glue is bound to escape out the sides. So to fix this and make things look a little bit cleaner, we use masking tape to tape around the sections where we had some of the silicone or hot glue coming out.
Then we put down a little bit of silicone within the tape, and using a flat card, like an old credit card or gift card or something, we smoothed that silicone out so we would have a flat black kind of plasticky layer over the mesh in those spots, and it would just look more cohesive than random lumps and then no lumps.
And with that, our hardscape is fully done. We brought the tank outside and hosed it off. The heat-treated carbonized cork is often coated in a thin layer of ash, so we recommend giving these a quick rinse either before you glue it all on or after, like we've done here.
With these bigger tanks, it can be difficult to transport them once they're fully assembled, so we're actually going to plant it in sections. We're going to do a little bit now in our studio and the rest at the client's house.
The first thing we added were some bromeliads. Bromeliads are an epiphytic plant, meaning that it can grow attached to things like tree bark and branches in the wild, so they don't need to be immersed in soil. Bromeliads just need their center to always have a little bit of water. Epiphytes like bromeliads are a great way to bring plants into the walls and sticks of your tank.
We attached those bromeliads using super glue to a few different spots around the tank. We tried to pick spots that will naturally get watered by the Automisters. Next, we added some sheet moss to the branches. We tied it in place with some cotton thread. Over time, that cotton thread is going to break down and the moss will root to the wood on its own.
With our first round of planting done, we started to attach the Automister. We ran the hose through this port on the side, attaching it to the mesh roof of the enclosure with zip ties. We put one outtake nozzle on the front right corner and the other one on the front left, then aimed them to spray to the back wall. The other end of the hose is going to connect to the water reservoir outside of the tank.
When the tank gets sprayed with water, that water needs somewhere to go, so it's not just molding up the substrate and rotting away the roots of our plants. This is where the drainage layer comes in. We added a 1 1/4 inch thick piece of aquarium sponge to the bottom of our tank to be our drainage layer. All the water that builds up in this tank over time is going to be below that sponge, keeping our substrate high and dry. Water can also evaporate from this drainage layer and condense within the tank, which mimics the water cycle in the real world.
And with that, the tank was ready for transport. We packed it up and brought it to the client's house to finish the planting. We started by adding a layer of substrate to the tank. For this build, we used ReptiZoo. We added some rabbit's foot fern in the pots on the walls. These also do great outside of the soil and can grow alongside the hardscape.
Along the ground, we started by adding some beautiful prayer plant and Alocasia, which have some great unique colors and textures. These are going to grow upwards and help connect the floor with the canopy. We sprinkled some Pothos in the background, which is going to climb along that back wall over time and just really tie it all together.
We sprinkled the floor with a thick layer of leaf litter and botanicals. We then added some springtails as cleanup crew. The leaf litter should provide a safe and clean surface for the chameleon if it ever ventures all the way down to the floor, and it will give the cleanup crew something to munch on.
Springtails are a tiny insect that lives in the soil, and they break down decaying plant matter and animal waste into more soil, which keeps the tank both clean and healthy and gives great nutrients for your plants.
And here's the tank right after planting. We got a good mixture of branches, mosses, epiphytes, plants, and more. As far as hardware goes, the intake hose of our Automister runs out this port to the side, to the control box, then down to a glass base of distilled water that will be kept under the tank.
Besides the Automister, this tank also has a heat lamp, UVB, and a grow light. The client let the tank grow in for a few weeks before adding Tekno. In just 2 months, Tekno's tank has grown into a thriving little jungle. The plants are rooting in, the humidity is right, and most importantly, Tekno seems happy and healthy. He's the king of his new little kingdom, and he can get a little bit cranky if you try to intrude. He's absolutely stunning, and seeing that bright blue and green body basking underneath the heat lamp really makes this tank feel alive.
He uses all the branches and vines throughout the tank, and he moves all around his new home. But his favorite spot during the day is up top under the heat lamp. He sleeps down here, tucked away in this little cave thing, and he's shedding right now for the second time, which is great. He's had no trouble shedding, which means that his humidity and temperature are being met well.
Sometimes he nibbles on the rabbit's foot fern, but at least so far, those ferns seem to be growing faster than he can eat them. The Alocasia and the prayer plant have taken off, and the Bromeliads are rooting to the wood. All in all, we are super happy with this tank, guys. It is absolutely stunning with Tekno in there.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for tank updates and more videos like this one.
Thanks for watching, guys. We're super excited to see the future of this tank, and if you're curious about what happens to these tanks as they age, check out our last video where we gave a 9-month update on the 100-gallon dart frog and day gecko tank.
That's it for now. Bye.
See you guys next time.